Welcome to another episode of the Kinvestor Report, where we sit down with analysts and industry experts to discuss the latest developments in the junior mining, commodities, and small cap stock market. I'm your host, Arlen Hansen. As always, this interview is not investment advice, it is for your listening pleasure only. I'll disclose any positions Kin has or compensated by, but I doubt we'll have to. This interview is not paid for, sponsored by, or marketed by any public company. I just love talking stocks. And I like to talk to people smarter than me who've got more experience so I can learn and share some knowledge with people. Today, I'm joined by, once again, the one and only Bob Moriarty, president of 321gold.com, former pilot in the U.S. Marine Corps and during Vietnam with 834 missions in combat, and also well known as the third pilot in history to fly under the Eiffel Tower, which I think is fitting because of the Olympics right now. But he's run 321gold.com for 22 years, offering up-to-date information about finance and resource investments. And he is certainly loved for his opinions on gold and his amazing personality. And I love chatting with Bob. It's always super entertaining. He first joined me on Kinvestor back in November last year for a great discussion about investing risk, the war premium on precious metals in the U.S. banking system. And I'm excited to see where today's conversation takes us today. But yeah, Bob, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining me. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and it's summertime, finally, in the south of France. And so far, so good. If we can avoid World War III in the next day or two, I'll be better. We're at the most interesting time, I think, in history. So we will have one or two things we can chat about.
Yeah, I think so. What's cool about that statement is I think my grandfather probably would have said the same thing back in 1940 or whatever times it was, right? And I think it's cool that like we all have different experiences in different times in our lives and all think that these are the most interesting times in our lives, and it's going to continue, right? But one thing I learned about last time as I talked to you is like you're one of the most outspoken guys on gold I know, but you're not really a gold bug. So like what gives on that? And let's talk about why that.
It depends on how you view gold. There are a number of gold bugs who literally want to worship gold. And quite bluntly, that's a waste of time. Money can be anything. It can be salt. It can be cattle. It can be pieces of plastic. It can be pieces of paper. It can be big, round rocks. It can be anything that two people agree is money. And they want to go into how important it is that gold is money. I don't view gold necessarily as money because lots of things function as money, including the US dollar. However, gold makes a really wonderful insurance policy against financial chaos. And boy, I'll tell you what, anybody who doesn't see that coming, okay, has missed the friggin' boat. I've been hammering and hammering and hammering, saying, the shit's about to hit the fan. Now, the funny thing is, I'm not predicting the market's going to go down 30% tomorrow. That's not my prediction. However, the next 2 or 3 or 4 months are going to be really scary. And I'll give you one even better. What is the most dangerous thing that's going to happen between now and January 20th? Most dangerous time in history. We've got the United States and NATO trying to start World War III in Ukraine. We've got the United States and Israel trying to start World War III in Gaza and Lebanon and Syria and Iran. And nobody has any clue as to where Joe Biden is or even if Joe Biden is. So one thing I'll say, and it's very important for your listeners to understand, I don't care how smart anybody is. I don't care how many times they've been accurate in the past. I will just say nobody is smart enough to predict what's going to happen between now and January 20th. Now, frankly, I think Kyle Bass, who has predicted Japan was going to blow up, I think he's absolutely correct. I think a $20 trillion carry trade is going to be unwound. I think the Dow is going to be up record points. I think the Dow is going to be down record points. I think gold and silver are going to be up record amounts. I think they're going to be down record amounts. And anybody, including me, nobody, including me, is smart enough to predict it. We may get...
none of us know our future, Bob. None of us know what's happening tomorrow. We can all pretend, right? But we truly...
No, that's right.
So live in today. Live in today. Let's have fun today. But I hear we got some things to talk about. So I'm actually want to bring this up specific because then how it relates to gold. Okay. Monday, August the 5th. Okay. The biggest one-day crash since Black Monday. My grandchildren will probably study this day in high school.
No,
right?
they won't. No.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Why not?
Okay. When was the top in 1929? Okay. That was the precursor. That was an indication that you're going to have an earthquake. Now, before there's a giant earthquake, there's always a lot of tremors in advance.
Yeah.
The top in the Dow was in the first week of September. I think it was the 5th of September, 1929. But the market didn't crash until the end of October, 1929. So I recognize there was a crash of sorts. The Nikkei was down 12.4% at one point. Of even more importance, NVIDIA lost $1.2 trillion in 6 weeks. And that the people who owned those shares thought they had money, and it went to money heaven in 6 weeks. So you're going to see things. Believe me, okay, these are the tremors in advance of the earthquake. That wasn't the earthquake. The earthquake's coming.
Yeah, well, and I think it's just really hard to navigate right now because, like, we go back to these headlines. Trump gets shot at, whether it was real or not. That's up for discussion later. We won't go into that now. Biden finally pieces out, as he should have months ago. We got all these Middle Eastern tensions. Gold's not getting a lot of headlines around that, yet you get things that we've known about, like a shitty recession, shitty job numbers, high inflation. We've known about this for years. It hits the headlines, the market falls 1,000 points. Like what is giving right now? It's, like nothing seems to make sense right now.
Well, here's the key. And there are some really bright guys who have been calling for the financial system to reset, okay, for the last year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly there are some issues that certainly indicate it is going to reset. But the last thing a stock market does before it crashes is it hits new record highs. I think the Dow and the S&P could still go higher, okay? But it's not a good thing, okay? It's just saying, we got to get to the top of the mountain, and then it takes one snowflake. The job numbers from the United States were absolutely meaningless. There are things like Warren Buffett selling 50% of its Apple stock. Now that's a big deal, okay? Warren Buffett, I think, is sitting on $238 billion. No, nobody in history has ever done that. So there are some massive, massive moves in the markets, all of the markets. The banking system is on the verge of collapse. The Fed knows it, okay? So, we're going to have Fed panic. We're going to have QE. We're going to have gold down $100 in a day, and then we're going to have gold up $150 in a day. And it's strange enough, I'm saying between now and January 20th, there are some very dangerous times that nobody is smart enough to predict.
Yeah. Well, I remember like back earlier in my career, 20, 25 years ago, I'd see 10% day moves in gold. And like a 10% move in gold now is $200 move.
No,
And
it's not.
or it's a $220 move.
No,
$240 move. Sorry.
very good.
I'm just rounding numbers, Bob. Come on, give me some grace. Um, but I haven't seen a 10% move in gold in years. And
Yeah, but
years.
here's
I
what's
used
really
to see them. Sorry?
gold. Gold didn't even have a good size blip.
Yeah.
Okay. The top I think was 2480 or 2489 or something
Yeah,
like that. Now,
24.
yeah, it was like 10 days ago. So gold goes down $100. Well, $100 is like 4%. Okay.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
deal. Okay. I have stocks that go down 10% every day. And the day
Then you own
after,
your
the day
mining
after.
stocks of the TSX Venture. That's why.
Oh God. But silver was down 6% one day. I think it was down a buck and a half. I think the central banks and the Chinese are literally have put a floor under gold. And I don't think you're going to see the moves in gold that everybody believes they're going to see. I think gold is a lot stronger. And quite bluntly, I think silver is about to rebound. Silver went from 32 down to 26 and change. That's not a serious move. But we're going to see some bad things in the stock market. We've certainly seen it in commercial real estate. The banks are in deep, serious trouble. So there's some exciting times coming.
Well, volatility creates opportunity, right?
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and and I think I was looking at some VIX charts yesterday, and they were saying like they've never seen these big boards with so much volatility in a very, very long time. So yeah, like the market's nervous. That creates that volatility, creates the opportunity, and so we got to be on our game here, right? I got a question as a Canadian though. I continue to look down into the States and see these bank failures. Like when is the average American actually going to be like, I don't believe in the banking system anymore? Like, what's it going to actually take?
I'm not sure I'm going to live that long.
Yeah.
The difference between Americans and Canadians is some Canadians have woken up. Okay. It's amazing to me. Everybody I talk to in Canada hates Trudeau. When that's true across the board, okay. Yeah, Canada's going to be in for a new adventure. But I hate to say it as an American. Americans are clueless. They believe the bullshit the mainstream media feeds them, and it's pure 100% crap. Now then, Israel deliberately attacked three major figures in Hamas and Hezbollah. They were targeted assassinations. They did it deliberately so they could get a response. Iran, of course, and Hezbollah and Hamas have said we're going to respond. The United States has come in and said, okay, you guys attack Israel, we're going to defend Israel against Iran. Russia, China, and North Korea have said, oh, okay, if you do that, we're going to defend Iran. Now, if you look at the mainstream media, there is nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, I don't care which team you cheer for. Okay, this is like the Olympics times 10,000, and there is nothing in the media.
There's a little bit more risk, eh? Just a little bit more on the line with this game that's going on than the Olympics. Just a little bit. Right?
I think you could say that, but the brainwashing that goes on with Americans. I truly, and I'm not prejudiced towards Canadians, but I am a little bit. I think Canadians are far more aware of what goes on in the world than Americans are. Americans are absolutely clueless.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of the media, like gold kissed near all-time highs there twice in the last 3, 4 months, whatever. Barely makes the news
That's
still.
good. It's a good
That's
thing.
good. Yeah. So like tell my audience like why that is good. Like that is good to me still.
Okay. At every market top, there are 100 reasons to buy. At every market bottom, there are 100 reasons to sell. That's what makes tops and bottom. So when you pick up the newspaper, you go to Fox or you go to CNN, and they're talking about, my God, everybody's making a fortune in NVIDIA. You want to be very careful. I did an interview 2 days before the top in NVIDIA. I said this top, it's gone parabolic. You can compare it to silver in April of 2011, exactly the same chart, and it's going to crash. And that was $1.2 trillion ago. You don't want the media talking about gold. When they start talking about it, when you get updates 4 or 5 times a day, when silver's up $5 in a day, when gold's up $125 in a day, be very careful. Okay, because that's when it's going to crash.
Well, it's when Jim Cramer starts yipping about it and Dennis Gartman still yipping about it, right? That's when I was like, oh, those are my signals for short-term sells.
Yeah,
Is Dennis,
exactly.
is Dennis Gartman actually still publishing his letter? Do you know? I just haven't seen
I
much about him
so,
lately. Yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
Kramer's the new guy on Twitter that everybody likes to make fun of now. So Dennis Gartman's.
Strange enough, James Grant has just done a really good paper on gold.
Okay.
Again, this is embarrassing. There's a worldwide conflict going on right now between the debt-based system of the West and the resource-based system of the East. China and India and Brazil and Russia have a far better clue as to what money is and what the value of gold is. And I think you could see some sort of gold-backed currency out of the BRICS in the next 3 months. There's actually, Jesus, I could probably name 20 black swans where there's going to be so much change in such a short period of time. And BRICS going to some kind of gold-backed currency would be a big deal. And frankly, I think that Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Chinese have put a floor under gold, and I think they control the price, which gets even more interesting. And I believe the statistics show that silver is being sucked out of London and sucked out of COMEX, and I think silver's about to have its day.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think there is a bear case for gold and silver right now?
Only in volatility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like short-term cases like what we just saw the last couple of days.
I mean, you're going to see moves that are earth-shaking, but if you are not leveraged, and boy, I tell you, if there was ever a time not to be leveraged, you do not want to be leveraged now on anything. Because if you do, you're going to meet Mr. Margin.
So be debt-free.
Yeah, but
Be debt-free.
if you're invested in gold, or if you're invested in silver, or if you're invested in the resource stocks, I think we're going to see a similar situation that we had in 2008 and the end of 2015. I think you're going to see big drops in resource stocks and then tenfold or 20-fold increase. In 2008, I think there were like 100 resource stocks selling for less than the cash they had on hand.
Remember those days, yeah. And people still wouldn't buy them.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd still be like, "Oh my God, oh no, I can't own this thing." Like, it's
I don't want to own this. Why would I want to own a dollar bill when it's only worth 80 cents? Well, straight enough, that's why.
Yeah. So, Bobby, we like gold, we like silver. How do you load up on these yourselves? Are you a bullion buyer? Are you an ETF? Are you junior stock? Are you just a mix across everything? How do you play this game yourself?
In 2001, I was living in Miami, and every Saturday I would go into my coin dealer, who was a friend of mine, and he had hundreds of 100-ounce silver bars. Silver got down to its low as 403 or 405, and I was buying silver with both hands. It was so crazy. People would bring in sets of sterling silver flatware, and he would buy it from them at 75% of spot. And he would sell it to me for 90% of spot. Now, if I can buy $100 bills for $90, I will buy as
All
many
day
of them
long.
as
Yeah,
I can. So literally, I have like 20 or 25 sets of sterling silver sitting in an empty apartment in Miami that I'm going to do something with someday.
that's gonna be
So
a hell of a dinner party, Bob.
yeah, I do very little purchases of gold and silver now because I was buying it when it was 4.5, $5, $6 an ounce. I did buy 1,000-ounce bar of silver when silver hit 22. I store gold and silver at SWP in Grand Cayman. And the guy that runs the place calls me up when people want to sell stuff. And he called up and said, "Hey, we've got some 1,000-ounce bars of silver. Do you want to buy some?" And I said, "Well, every time you call me and you ask me, it always marks the bottom. So yeah, of course, I'll buy
Yeah.
some." So I did. And you can go back. And silver actually went down to $21 an ounce. But uh, the people who are selling gold and silver are the weak hands.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you can
Usually,
ever
yeah.
figure out what the weak hands are, you know exactly what you should do. They always sell at bottoms, they always buy at tops. And someday, and this happened to me in January of 1980, someday somebody that I know is going to come up to me and say, "Bob, gold's $45,000 an ounce. It's gone up from 30,000 in the last week, and it's going to double in the next month." Forgetting that I've been talking about owning gold and silver for like 800 years.
Okay, Moses.
And I'm gonna dump it. I dumped all my silver and gold in early January of 1980 because all these guys that I had been trying to convince to own gold and silver all of a sudden wanted to
Yeah.
buy silver at $50 an ounce, and they nailed the top, and I didn't exactly nail the top. And in 2011, I had an Atocha silver bar, and I sold it for $42 an ounce, but I paid $5.25. So I was thrilled to get 42
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting actually, like when you bring up the buying the physical there and like the silver spoons, right? Like I like to buy a lot of physical. I'm really finding like the fees and the premiums and the exchange rates. I'm in the end, you're paying more than spot, right? And if you ever do need to sell it, and like I'm in the position where I'm only buying what I can hold on for long term. If you do get in a position to sell, you're taking a big cut, right? Like trying to exchange that back to the Vancouver bullion dealers or back to the online place you're buying it and da 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 da. So I think that is a little bit of a barrier, right? For people to get the good value. It's hard to buy gold for 90 cents on the dollar now, right? Like
No,
you,
no, no,
okay,
no.
and tell us, where do we do it?
I'll give you an example. There was a British auction house that was rigging sales, and they got caught by the CFTC, and the CFTC required them to put a bunch of stuff up for auction with no minimum bid. This goes back to 1980. And they were putting foreign gold coins out on eBay, and you couldn't tell by looking at the coin what it was, okay, in terms of weight or anything else. They weren't trying to maximize the value. They were just putting it out. And there were some Icelandic gold coins and some Saudi Arabian gold coins, and you could buy them for $228 an ounce, and they would send you a 1 ounce silver coin with it. So I go out and start bidding on this stuff, and I noticed there was somebody else bidding. And I didn't want to bid against him because all I would be doing was driving up the price. So I would bid on some, and as long as he left me alone, I didn't bid on his. Well, we didn't communicate directly. However, we communicated indirectly. He did the same thing. So I bought literally, God, I don't know, 50, 80, 100, 200 ounces of gold at $228 an ounce, delivered, and a free ounce of silver.
And a free ounce of silver, yes.
Okay. When gold never went below 252, I was buying sterling silver flatware. I could have taken it down the road to a smelter and made 5 or 8% profit. I was buying World War II silver nickels that had, I think, 5 grams of silver. That I was paying 40% of the value of the silver. I'll give you a perfect example. Freeport McMoran had a silver debenture, and you could buy the silver debenture at a 15% cut below spot. Okay. They would pay you the amount of silver when the thing actually matured. If you understand what you're doing, and you have to be a contrarian, and you have to understand, you buy low and sell high when your nature tells you you want to do the opposite. I am always buying things below their cost. We got a place here in the south of France that sells that. Somebody went to the French government and said, look, we've got a bunch of homeless people and drunks and drug addicts, and we need to give them an occupation, and we need to let them get their feet on the ground. So if you will give us tax breaks, we'll set up this organization where people can donate goods to us. And that's exactly what they do. It's called emails. And people donate dishes, furniture, copper, pewter. Because I own part of a big tin project in Bolivia, I'm current with the price of pewter. I can buy tin at a 40% discount from emails.
Wow.
I have hundreds of pounds. I have more shit of pewter and copper stashed in my barn. Now, please do not ask me embarrassing questions like, Bob, you don't need the money. Okay. What are you going to do with that crap? Because I couldn't possibly answer. But I know if you can buy things at a 40 or 50% discount, someday you're going to make money. And you can do it with gold and silver.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. And I really appreciate your time. And we do have an uncanny ability to find these. I think the last time we chatted, it was right when the Ukraine war started happening too. So it's nice to have you back on and chat about these things. I always love your opinions and your outspoken your outspoken voice, and I think you're very important to our market out there. So thank you for
Well,
all the hours and all the work you've done for our market too.
The real key is this is a time to be especially cautious because it's a very, very dangerous time. And you're going to see things like Bitcoin go from 72 to 50 and back to 65. So it's not a time to get cute. It's a time to be especially conservative.
Awesome. We'll leave it with that. If you haven't already, be sure to join the Kinvestor Network by subscribing to our channel and following us on social media. We're putting on a conference in October as well, where we'll have a bunch of publicly traded companies presenting their investment opportunities out there. So stay tuned for that. We'll have the date shortly. Follow us on Twitter, on YouTube, and all those other lovely social channels. And we'll chat again. Take care.